Many non-Japanese who work at the foreign subsidiaries of Japanese firms wonder, why do their Japanese colleagues work such long hours? After putting in a long day, it can feel disconcerting to see your Japanese colleagues still toiling away while you head toward the door. The issue of long Japanese working hours is a complex issue that has many facets to it. Part of it has to do with the different expectations of Japanese families about working hours, which is discussed below. Part of it has to do with the expectations of Japanese companies, in which putting in long hours still tends to be viewed as a sign of devotion and hard work rather than of poor time management. In the case of Japanese assigned overseas, the time lag with Japan is also a significant factor. For example, in North America there is an expectation that Japanese will stay in the office late in order to contact the headquarters in Japan by phone during their office hours, because the early evening here is the start of the business day in Japan. Japanese who are not available for such conversations will be perceived negatively by their counterparts in Japan, which will affect their career future. It is also a common phenomenon for expatriates of any nationality to work longer hours when on international assignments. This is because an international posting tends to be a make-or-break point in one's career. Also, when far from home, friends, and familiar activities, it's easier to spend a lot of time in the comfortable environment of work rather than extending oneself to deal with the local people and culture. This is particularly true for Tanshin Funan, expatriates who are here without their families. It's easier to stay at work and get things done than go home to an empty apartment and face one's loneliness head-on. Another factor affecting working hours is the typical Japanese preference for working schedules. Unlike Americans who often come in early, as early as 7 a.m. in some cases, in order to get their work done, Japanese tend to not be morning people. They usually prefer to get a later start, and then get their work done by staying later in the evening. And few Japanese make personal plans on weekday evenings, so it's easy to get caught up in your work and the next thing you know it's 8 p.m. Finally, there is one other significant difference in American and Japanese work habits. Americans will typically bring work home with them, for example, head home to have dinner with the family, and then perhaps do some work after dinner. However, Japanese seldom do this. They like to keep their homes as a work-free zone, so if they have work to do they tend to stay late at the office and do it there. Another question non-Japanese often have is, why don't Japanese families complain when the husbands work long hours? In the US, a husband's love for his family is measured by the amount of time he spends with them. Fathers are expected to spend time with their children in the evening, and to have dinner with the family as much as possible. Husbands are expected to help out with household chores. With so many two-income couples, this is essential in order to keep a household running. According to one public opinion poll, the thing that American women want most from their marriage is companionship, which can be thought of as time spent together. In Japanese neighborhoods there seems to be some peer pressure elements, because if the gossip sees someone coming home early people will begin to think that he is not successful in his job. Some Japanese men who are unsure how to relate to their families tend to stay at the office later, because it is an environment where they are more certain of how to act. And some Japanese women may prefer that their husbands not spend too much time around the house getting underfoot. There is an old saying in Japan that the best husband is one who is healthy and not around too much. Some recent social problems in Japan involving alienated and violent youths are causing some Japanese to question the wisdom of fathers spending so little time with their children. And the rapidly falling birth rate in Japan suggests that some Japanese women may not be thrilled by the prospect of raising children with a father who is only home on weekends. According to polls, many younger Japanese woodworkers prefer shorter working hours and more time with their families. The question is whether Japanese corporate culture will become flexible enough to make this possible.